Thanks Ipsos Sci for sponsoring this video.
Hey, Captain Dreamy. On your left.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Harriet. Now look, it's no secret that Marvel has been having some problems lately, especially with their Disney Plus shows. And today, I'm going to explain what those problems are and offer up a few solutions on how the studio could regain the fans' trust and enthusiasm. I mean, their D23 presentation this year was just kind of depressing, but I'm going to talk about that more in a bit.
What the f*** is this piece of shit?
And I'm not going to be talking about, oh, they should do a massive reboot or bring in the X-Men. We are going to talk about why the key to fixing Marvel and Disney Plus is actually the show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That mercilessly forgotten low-rated ABC show?
Yes, and by the way, that show's way underrated. You should watch it. You see, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually had the key to making Marvel and Disney Plus work. And as I go through this video, I'm going to talk a lot about the year 2014, because that was a magical year for the MCU. And I think that Marvel needs to replicate what they were doing 9 years ago to succeed in the future.
But I don't understand what you're saying. I love Marvel. What's wrong with the MCU?
Oh, dude, I still love the MCU. I mean, a bad MCU show is still better than most superhero shows out there. But Marvel has seen a pretty steady decline in critical and fan ratings over the years, culminating in their abysmal Rotten Tomatoes score for the Secret Invasion finale. Now, we talked about what's happened to Marvel over the years in this video, but I'm going to briefly recap their troubles now, so we're all going to be aware of the problems that we need to deal with. First of all, Marvel began Phase 4 dealing with 3 problems that were not under their control at all. Like, Disney had fired James Gunn, and James Gunn was set to take on a leadership role, coordinating the Marvel cosmic projects, and that also delayed Guardians 3 for several years. And Guardians 3 was by far the biggest franchise the MCU had going into Phase 4. And then, of course, there's the pandemic and all of the multitude of problems that came with that. And worst of all, there was the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, where we lost a brave and wonderful person who was also the star of Marvel's biggest franchise. Now, those are very public, visible problems that Marvel had to overcome. And actually, I think they overcame those pretty well. Gunn was rehired, the pandemic shined a spotlight on the Disney Plus shows, and Wakanda Forever was a masterful film about grief and a touching tribute to Boseman. But Marvel has also had some behind-the-scenes problems. Namely, that during Phase 4, former Disney CEO Bob Chapek reportedly pushed Marvel and Lucasfilm to pump out more and more content for Disney Plus. Now, this lowered the bar for quality because so few projects got the attention, care, and visual effects work that they deserved.
I will remember you.
Now, I will say that former and now current CEO Bob Iger has pumped the brakes on this pipeline, wanting to make Marvel and Star Wars feel like events again. It would also be great if he would pay his writers and actors a fair wage and let them get back to telling the stories that we all love.
Excuse me, I have an urgent matter that needs to be addressed.
Sure, what is it?
Well, sir, you see, I visited this rental outlet in hopes of finding a classic feature film in the tradition of Citizen Kane or Fellini's 8.5. But instead, I discovered a grievous wrongdoing. Are you aware that though you carry Beethoven's 3rd and Beethoven's 4th, your store does not have Beethoven or Beethoven's 2nd? You may now cast your eyes down in shame.
Yeah, the Charles Grodin movie about the big dog, so what's the big deal?
What's the big deal? For shame! How is one to appreciate the nuances of the Beethoven series if not afforded the chance to see the beginning of this saga? The character of Beethoven is more richly explored in the first 2 episodes.
Okay, Doug, we have a real problem here. I looked this up, and the 2 Beethoven movies he's talking about cost $12 on Amazon.
$12?
I know, I don't have that kind of money.
Whatever can we do?
Actually, I got us covered. I just got a $25 Amazon gift certificate from Ipsos Sci. They're the sponsor of this video.
Ipsos Sci? Why, what is that?
Oh, dude, Ipsos Sci is great. So you take part in research and answer some simple questions to earn some extra cash through gift cards and rewards. That's how I got the Amazon card to get these Beethoven movies. Or you can get Visa gift cards, which you can spend on just about anything. The surveys are fast and easy to complete, and they're tailored to my interests so they don't get boring. Like, look, when you're just sitting around watching TV and you're on your phone, fill out these surveys and make money. So click our link below and start earning your rewards from Ipsos Sci. So back to Marvel. So Phase 4's mission to make as much content as possible made it impossible to interconnect this universe properly. In fact, tomorrow we have a video coming out that I'm really proud of, where we rewrite Phase 4 to talk about how we could have altered the entire phase to set up the Secret Invasion Avengers movie instead of just making it a weak Disney Plus series. So like, this massive freight train of projects that Marvel creates is built built on the back of something called viz dev, or visual development. Normally, a filmmaker writes a screenplay, and then they storyboard the movie, create animatics, and then they film. And while filming is happening, effects teams get to work on the visual effects. But visual effects take so long to create that Marvel essentially skips a couple steps. They imagine their visual effects sequences first, and then build the screenplay around them.
Like John Woo?
Yes, like John Woo, who writes screenplays around whatever white dove he wants to include in his movie. Now, this process has worked really well sometimes in the past. It's how we were able to get so many Avengers and Captain America and team-up films in such a short amount of time. But the problem with this is sometimes the screenplay and the story evolve in a different way. Like, for instance, they had to reimagine the last act of Iron Man to add in that icing problem.
How'd you solve the icing problem?
Icing problem.
And there are other Marvel movies with very clunky third acts that just don't work with the story that was being told. Like how Shang-Chi's father-son conflict was resolved by a demon-sucking dragon. Or how a grounded spy thriller like Black Widow ended with a skyship falling from the sky. So because of this, Marvel always does these extensive, costly reshoots that force their VFX firms to sleep under their desks to meet these impossible deadlines. The result is usually a mess, where directors don't often have creative control of their films and the VFX looks sloppy. Like, for instance, James Gunn is the rare Marvel creator who is still afforded the chance to write a screenplay before the visual effects are imagined, and Guardians 3 is the best superhero movie of the year. I also saw a rumor recently that Alfonso Cuarón is being courted to direct Secret Wars, and I'm wondering if he would even be afforded the chance to bring his own style into the film, like he did for Prisoner of Azkaban. Although, Sam Raimi sure did Raimi it up in Multiverse of Madness.
It's over!
So like, when I look at all of this, and I look wistfully back to a different time, I think of 2014. Marvel released 2 films that year, Winter Soldier and Guardians 1, and both films were huge creative swings. Winter Soldier blew up the Marvel sandbox with a political spy thriller, and some people still think it's the best MCU movie ever made. And James Gunn introduced the cosmic MCU with this team of outcasts and losers who I love dearly. Both films are amazing, they're groundbreaking, and they really kicked off the run-up to Avengers Endgame. So the best way for Marvel to empower creatives like this is to just pump the brakes a little bit. Let the directors be involved with the whole process. So I would like to see more talented creators set loose like James Gunn was in 2014. Like, okay, The Eternals. Chloe Zhao is one of the most brilliant directors to ever direct a cape flick. And this film has some heavy themes about religion, humanism, love, and it's one of the best looking Marvel movies, shot on location, natural lighting, and yet you can feel the studio's influence all over it. Like, the inclusion of Dane Whitman feels like he's only there so he can come back in future movies. Like, if you're gonna have a love triangle with Dane Whitman and Richard Madden, then like, have everybody together for the whole film instead of writing him out in the middle so we could explain where he was, like in the Blade movie. That's probably never going to happen. There's also all the terrible quips in The Eternals.
What's this even made of? Vibranium?
Fall collection. IKEA.
Which are very off base with these beautiful environments the characters find themselves in. And the ending with the deviants and all that, it's just sloppy, and fans cannot let go of the fact that there's a celestial sticking out of the ocean and nobody ever talks about it.
We don't talk about Bruno, no, no.
And this is the other big problem with this overcrowding. There are too many characters to care about. Like Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is the only solo film of a new character in Phase 4, and there is no announcement for a sequel. There is no follow-up on his character. Captain America got 3 films in 5 years. Same for Iron Man. Plus, we saw them in multiple team-up movies. It's really hard to get attached to these characters when they feel just one and done. I mean, the heartbeat of the MCU is its characters. That Captain America Endgame moment with the hammer mattered because we love Captain America.
As far as I'm concerned, that's America's ass.
With so many projects in the pipeline, we have to wait way too long to get to the next chapter of a hero's story. And in the meantime, the pipeline gets cluttered up with new characters to keep track of. It's like too much of a good thing. But like we're going to talk about in tomorrow's video, I think that introducing a lot of new characters is fine if we get to see them together in a team-up movie. The Avengers movies also gave us this thrill of seeing characters from different franchises and genres interact.
What master do you serve? What master do I serve? What am I supposed to say, Jesus?
And now it feels like all of the Marvel movies are the same genre. They're Marvel movies. And again, I return to Shang-Chi here, a movie that should have been a gritty 70s-like kung fu film, but instead in the third act turned into a big energy shoot-'em-up Marvel movie against the dragon. I think Marvel is forcing a lot of their creators to conform to their house style, which overall hurts these movies. And because these characters aren't interacting in Avengers team-up films, we don't get to see things like She-Hulk flirt with Thor. That'd be awesome. I'd really like to see that. But the reason these team-up moments are so few and far between is because when you have so many projects in this pipeline, it becomes impossible to know exactly when they're going to be released in order, so interconnecting them becomes almost impossible. Case in point, America Chavez was going to be introduced in Spider-Man No Way Home when that movie was going to come out before Doctor Strange. She was already going to be a student at Carmitage, so she was going to bring the Peters Parker into the MCU. But instead, Sony decided to move that movie to December, which meant they had to add in the plot line where Ned suddenly has magical abilities. So when we talk about interconnecting different Marvel projects like this is where I want to talk about the other Marvel success of 2014, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, for most of its run, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was kept arm's length from the MCU.
I don't know her.
But for one glorious week, it fit in perfectly with the action on the big screen. Now, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. followed a team of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. It had a mostly uneven first season, but then, one week, Jasper Sitwell showed up, and we know him from the movies.
Is this little display meant to insinuate that you can throw me off the roof? Because it's really not just style, Rogers. It's hers.
And then the characters in the show were like, oh, you're gonna go in that boat, right? The Lemurian Star. That's the same boat he was on in The Winter Soldier. Get it? And that episode ended with this tease that something was not right within S.H.I.E.L.D. There was some kind of conspiracy.
He's mine.
And then you go to the movies 2 days later and you see Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and S.H.I.E.L.D. falls. The next episode, Turn, 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 happens during the events of the Winter Soldier.
It's gotta be some sort of activation signal to Hydra members within S.H.I.E.L.D.
Showing that one of the team members that we've been following all season was Hydra the entire time. This was the perfect synergy between TV and movies, and Disney Plus has squandered an opportunity to keep this universe so interconnected.
You blew it!
What makes the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Winter Soldier crossover so remarkable is that broadcast TV has baked in air dates that the network can't just move around arbitrarily. So they had to coordinate this storyline perfectly with the studio to intersect with the Winter Soldier. Literally, there was a tease that there was something wrong with S.H.I.E.L.D. on Tuesday. On Thursday, we saw the Winter Soldier, and next week we saw the repercussions of the Winter Soldier on the show. So like, apply that to the MCU right now. I thought Ms. Marvel was pretty great. It was creative, fun, set in the MCU, and yet was a part of it. It was a different genre. And so they gave filmmakers room to explore this new space. But Disney released it on the same day as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it was rushed out before the visual effects were done. Why? They could have easily sat on that show and released it this year, after Secret Invasion, and that would have perfectly set up the Marvels. And leading up to the movies, all these shows should be re-released on ABC. Like, they tried to do that with Ms. Marvel over the summer, but nobody watches TV in the summer, and the ratings were awful. Less than 1 million people watched every episode. Like, when a Marvel show comes to the network, it should be a mini-series, a week-long event that ends with new footage from the upcoming movie.
But if Disney Plus shows are on ABC, well, why would people bother buying Disney Plus?
Look, bro, Disney Plus is my favorite streaming service. It has literally all the stuff that I love, but it feels cheap when it should feel like an elite experience. Like, if Disney Plus is going to raise its subscription price, then they should make the app special. It should feel like you're buying a Blu-ray. We should be able to watch these shows and movies in 4K. And for the Disney Plus shows, include audio commentaries and deleted scenes. Make this app like a pristine elite experience. Like, the first wave of Disney Plus shows felt very special because they featured movie characters on TV. It felt like a bonus to get to watch 9 episodes of Wanda and the Vision. But the new characters being set up on the shows just don't hit as well. They feel low budget. They feel like homework instead of events. It feels like characters like She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel and Moon Knight aren't important enough to merit a movie, so they just kind of get relegated to Disney Plus. Now, I don't think that's true, but it feels that way, right? And this could be tweaked just a little bit with a little help from the movies. For instance, I hate the second Multiverse of Madness post-credit scene.
The one with Clea?
Yes. It's a fine tease for Secret Wars, but it undermines Raimi's killer cliffhanger ending. I mean, we go from this to this.
Not in the least.
So instead, I think that end credit scene should have been Wong preparing for his trial date that we saw in She-Hulk. Now that, alongside his Abomination fight in Shang-Chi, would make it feel like Wong had this like whole other life that we would want to see explored, and we would get to see that life explored in the She-Hulk show. Moon Knight could have also been set up in Thor: Love and Thunder with a post-credit scene of Khonshu and Omnipotent City. I mean, we could do this all day. I just want everything to feel connected again. And the post-credit scenes used to be the best way for Marvel to tease those connections without having to like rewrite their entire screenplays. I never knew how bad I wanted to see a Thor movie until I saw Thor's hammer pop up in the post-credit scene of Iron Man 2. And in 2014, the Winter Soldier post-credits featured Wanda and Pietro Maximoff and set up Age of Ultron.
Sooner or later, they will meet the twins.
Perfection! The original goal in 2020 was for WandaVision to come out in the spring and then Doctor Strange 2 to come out right after, in May. And that should always be their goal. Ironheart should have come out right after Wakanda Forever and not like years later. Now, that level of coordination is impossible for Marvel right now, but if they slow down the pipeline and be more selective with their resources, then we'll see coordination like we saw during the Winter Soldier and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But there's one other thing that happened in 2014 that made it special to be a Marvel fan. Instead of making a big presentation at D23 or Comic-Con, Marvel had their own fan event, which is nuts. It wasn't a long event like Star Wars Celebration. It was just a bunch of Marvel fans and some movie stars getting hyped for Phase 3. They announced the Phase 3 slate. They introduced Chadwick Boseman on stage with Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, and they showed footage from Age of Ultron.
Earth's mightiest heroes pulled us apart like cotton candy.
This was peak hype, and now it's become watered down. There are 2 major Comic-Cons, plus D23, plus Disney Plus Day, plus CCXP, plus the Disney Investor Call. And so we just kind of expect trailer dumps and announcements on those days. Like Disney has been pressuring Marvel and Lucasfilm to always announce something big on those days to hype up their investors. And as the upcoming book, The Reign of Marvel Studios, details, this forces the studios into announcing projects that are just barely entering development, like in 2020 when Marvel and Lucasfilm announced the Fantastic Four and Rogue Squadron. And what's kind of weirder is that Marvel has started filming things without even officially announcing them, like the Wonder Man show with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. The strikes halted filming, but as far as I know, Marvel never made an official announcement at a public venue.
Very weird.
I know, right? Now, look, D23 this year wasn't great. They showed some footage of Loki and the Marvels, which wasn't even released online. And it also didn't reveal anything new. And like most of the panel was devoted to a movie called The Wish. But look, that's understandable because of the Hollywood strikes that are happening right now. Last year, D23 was an event with the cast of Wakanda Forever, Captain America Brave New World, The Thunderbolts, Loki Season 2, Ironheart, Armor Wars, and showing trailers online for Werewolf by Night and Secret Invasion. And that was also the event where Harrison Ford and Ke Huy Quan reunited for this photo.
Those were better times.
They sure were. But even if the strikes weren't going on right now, I don't think Marvel would have made any crazy announcements this year. Like maybe they would have talked about Echo or What If Season 2, but lately all the news from Marvel is that projects like the Agatha Show, Ironheart, Echo, X-Men 97, they're all being delayed after they were already delayed. I mean, we were supposed to have 5 Marvel shows this year and we may end up with just 2. And you know what? That's fine, Marvel. Take your time. Make it good. But a lot of industry rumors are that some of these shows are just outright bad. And that is, for instance, why Echo might be being dumped in a single day on Disney Plus. Like they want Echo to set up a Daredevil Born Again show, but then just be done with it, which is not a really good look. I mean, right now there is no hype for Marvel because it feels like there's nothing to hype. Is anybody stoked for an Agatha trailer? But I will say that I am totally hyped for next year's movies. I mean, come on. Deadpool 3, Captain America Brave New World, Thunderbolts, all will be amazing. But will they even come out? Because the studios are refusing to end the strikes, Agatha may end up being the biggest show in 2024. So what I want to see instead of like all these different events is a big Marvel event, like the one that we got in 2014. Something that clearly says, here is where we are going. Here are the people who are a part of this. Fans want to be assured that there is a plan, that everything is interconnected. And Marvel and Disney are turning this around, but Marvel's a really big ship that takes a while to steer. And I want to reiterate that the studios need to end the strikes by paying these writers and actors a fair wage, because these stories that we love so much would not exist without the human creative soul.
And another thing, your failure to carry all 4 chapters of the Beethoven Chronicle speaks ill of you and your taste. Without the prior 2 episodes to lead up on, they are merely withdrawn, aimless tales of a fat, slobbering mongrel that ought to be put to sleep rather than adored. What did you say?
Hey, Doug, chill. Look, man, we bought all 8 Beethoven movies with the money that I made on Ipsos I Say. So are we cool now?
There's 8 movies?
Yeah, there's 8 movies. There's one where he goes Christmas and he treasure hunts. Do you want the movie or not?
No thanks. I'm gonna watch it on my phone.
Well, if any of you want to earn rewards on Ipsos I Say, click our link in the description. But what do you think? Does Marvel need fixing? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.